the baby carrots one, like Clay McLeod Chapman, you are a huge weirdo. What was that? But like I loved it. Great job. Hi friends, I'm Olivia. This is AV Club where I talk about horror, litfic, weird books, whatever I want to talk about. And today I will be doing a horror book review of Acquired Taste by Clay McLeod Chapman. I think it was in my birthday book tag where I was asked about the book that I was most looking forward to that was coming out in the second half of the year. And I said Acquired Taste by Clay McLeod Chapman. He is an author that I have loved from many times, really high ratings most of the time. I think my lowest rating I've ever given him was a 3 star, and it was like not a mid 3 star. It was just like in comparison with his other books, which I've loved. And so I was really looking forward to this. I have also been approved for an arc of his YA book coming out, I think in November. So I'll be doing that later. But just yesterday, I have been looking forward to this. I don't think it has even been on NetGalley for very long. And it's coming out on September 9th, Acquired Taste. And just yesterday, I was approved for it. And it was only like a couple of days until it was archived, I think. But it didn't really matter because I got approved for it yesterday. And it's like, okay, everything else was getting put down until I read this because he is just an author that I love and is so comforting to me. He can write about some really vile stuff, really horrific stuff, unimaginable stuff that is usually pretty sicko coded, pretty dark-sided, mean-spirited, but for some reason he can write about these topics in a way that there is a thread of humanity woven through all of them in a way that feels cozy, comforting to me. Like horrible stuff he's writing about, but it's still somehow cozy. It has a je ne sais quoi. Like, I don't think that being mean spirited is always bad. Like, I think some things that have a mean spirited tone can still be worthwhile a lot of times. Like, disturbing, transgressive stuff can be mean spirited. However, I think that's just what makes him a favorite author is because it's comforting to me as well as like being about these like real horror topics. And this is a short story collection. It has about 25 short stories varying in length from about 5 to 35 pages, most of them around 10 pages long. And I think, with the exception of one of them, they are all republished works. So he has either published them as a chapbook before, they've been in Fangoria or in other anthologies, like a holiday anthology, a cannibalism anthology. They've just been in multiple places before. And the only one that I've read before as um, I hate to say that I'm a super fan because obviously I would have tracked down all of these magazines and have already read all of them if I was a super fan. But as a large fan of his work, I've only read one of them before. I've read Stay on the Line before it was published as like a standalone novella that I was able to read on Scribd. But other than that, and that's the longest one that's in here, that's like 35 pages. Other than that, I hadn't read any of them before. So I was really going in blind to this collection, but just knowing his work and what I like about his work, there's really no one that I would rather read a horror short story collection from. The reason for that being is that all of his books that I've read, he just has this world building skill that makes you feel like it's his like passion project, whatever the research that he had to do for was. Like, you know how whenever you read from an author, sometimes you can tell what they're really into, like their personal interest in film or video games or gardening, cooking. You can just tell sometimes what they're into. All of his books feel like that for whatever the topic is. Like whenever you read Ghost Eaters, it feels like this man loves psychedelics and mushrooms and just like the idea of mushrooms. Whenever you read What Kind of Mother, it feels like he knows everything about the bogs. He knows everything about the crab fishing, and he knows everything about what it feels like to be on these wetlands. And a lot of his stuff is southern and Southern Gothic, like a neo Southern Gothic in the way that he approaches a lot of topics. So there is like a real, obviously knows a lot about the Carolinas and Virginia. I think he's from Virginia. And then my fave, The Remaking, like you can tell that he does love vintage horror movies, but just the way that it's written about, it's just there is so much lust for life in all of his writing that you can tell he loves writing. You can tell that he loves storytelling. And the best way that I can describe this short story collection, what it feels like, is that he is like the lead Boy Scout and much respected among his troop. And he is telling ghost stories around the fire. They all have such a distinct hook to them in a way that makes a campfire story work in the way that makes the idea of storytelling work. Like, I'm not surprised that I read this in 24 hours, but it was like one of those things that it was almost unput downable that I would finish one and I would say the next one was only like, okay, the next one's only 5 pages. I'll just keep going. Oh, the next one's only 10 pages. I'll just keep going. Like, I was just like, oh, I'll just read the next 2 pages of this one and then I'll, I can put it down for a little bit. But I just like could not stop reading them. And it was like very addictive. And I think that there is like something that's difficult whenever you're writing horror short stories, especially ones that are only like 5 to 7 pages, for them to not feel like those like corny 2 sentence horror stories from that subreddit that are just like always like a and then she woke up or and who was phone, like that kind of like almost meme quality to them. And I won't say that there's like none of that in there whenever it's like the really short ones that it's like, okay, you had to kind of like throw in like something to make it feel exciting, to make it have some sort of like twist to wrap it up whenever it's not something that has a lot of like emotional development. But it works so well in this for me that he also covers a lot of really philosophical and kind of heady topics that you can have like a longer story that is about like the ghost of the Civil War or that's about Civil War monuments and have these serious topics. And then these like kind of like saucy little 5 to 7 page ones are almost like interstitials that it's kind of like the things holding together a VHS anthology where you get these long stories and then the short stories, like they don't have to, if they carried the same weight as these longer stories, like it would feel overwhelming. But whenever you're alternating between these like serious topic stories and then these ones that are like just kind of silly and garish, I just think it works so well. And by silly, I'm not like trying to be demeaning in any kind of way, but there is a comical nature to a lot of his stories very intentionally, that he is a funny person, that he doesn't mind his characters speaking in a funny way. And I think more often than not, I don't love short story collections because my least favorite parts of books are the beginning, whenever you're acquainting yourself with the world, acquainting yourself with the characters. And he is so skilled at dropping you in a world in like a sentence that the voices for all of his characters are so different that there's no labor into getting into them. They're all just there's an immediacy to them that makes it really easy to just read the whole book really quickly. On that note, I think if it would be really off-putting for you to read something that had comical horror in it, then he's probably just not an author for you if you like really bleak stuff. That he never feels bleak or grim, even whenever he's dealing with really grim topics. That it's just also, I don't want to say hopeful necessarily, but whenever he's talking about topics, like he talks about politics and modern politics a lot, about modern political rallies and Fox News from Wake Up and Open Your Eyes is also within here. It's kind of like the first part of that book, not exactly, but he's writing about these things that are so horrific in a way that you can tell that he can imagine a different world, that he's writing about them because he has hope that there could be a different world, that it's not nihilistic at all. And that's just like something that I really respect, something that I think is hard to do. Obviously I'm a southerner as well, and so I just really have such respect for how he writes about the South, being from it and having hope for it and being able to talk about it honestly, like being able to talk about the really problematic parts of the South's past without being dismissive of the actual people who live there and their worth and their value. It's just not something that I've read from anyone else, and why he has been a favorite author and why Acquired Taste only makes me even more of a fan. I loved this. I think it would be perfect for like Halloween time. There are like a couple of Halloween specific stories in here, candy specific stories, toy specific stories. But I mean, really, it could be any time of the year because there's also like a story about Santa. There's a story about a Boy Scout troop, kind of. There's stories about churches and weird churches and aging and animals and love and bookstores. I mean, there's just it's never one tone. It really was just such a hit for me. I'm so grateful that I was able to get my hands on an e-arc, even though it's now very close to the release date. But there is not currently a way to order the book in Australia, as far as I can tell. So I am very happy to have gotten an e-arc. So thank you, Titan, very much. So yeah, always very good to be looking forward to a book and it not disappointing you. I hope if you check it out that you like it too. If you have read it, or if you do read it, I would love for you to tell me which one was your favorite story. I don't want to spoil any of them. There's a lot of memorable imagery in here. I don't know exactly which one would be my favorite. All ears and Keep It Civil are definitely going to be haunting me. Knockoffs is very upsetting as well. There's a lot in here about babies and children and parenthood. So if those are topics of interest to you, then yeah, I definitely think that you'll like it. The baby carrots one, like Clay McLeod Chapman, you are a huge weirdo. What was that? But like, I loved it. Great job. But also, if you have an author, I'd also love to hear your recommendations for authors that are weirdos but are so comforting to you, because I would love to know and follow other authors. I don't think there's any author like him, to be quite honest, but I would love to have more authors to be looking for those kind of vibes. But I'll be back to talk to you soon about other horror books or litfic or weird books. So subscribe if you haven't. I'm so happy you are here. Leave me a comment. I love to talk in the comments. But until next time, bye.